What does this government need to do to really alleviate the financial burden that these higher interest rates bring?
Sure. Well, we're hearing a lot of talk from economists about other external factors which apply to other nations in the world. Of course, that includes a reduction in supply chain in China, for example, as well as oil prices, as we're seeing with the crisis in Ukraine. But we're coming to a consensus that the main problem is inflationary spending. In budget 2022 alone, we are now at an expenditure of $56.5 billion. So the government really needs to start thinking about tax relief for Canadians, about keeping more money in Canadians' pockets.
It sounds like they're pivoting, though, because they're saying they're trying to pursue a fiscally responsible track. Is that good enough for you guys?
It's not good enough. They still have a plan to tax, Michael. That includes a January 1st increase on payroll taxes. It includes a triple of the carbon tax by 2030, as you've heard my colleagues and I mention in the House of Commons.
Only a couple of times.
Only a couple
I've
of
only heard
times,
that a couple
Michael.
of times.
And as well, increases on fuel, gas, and home heating as of April 1st of this year. So this is really the time for the government to reconsider their wasteful spending and to keep more money in the pockets of Canadians.
Nikki Ashton, I'll bring you in here. Your party has that supply and confidence agreement with the government. Now, part of the government's proposed affordability measures include those dental care benefits, which are one of the planks. But that doesn't help every Canadian out there because it doesn't go to every Canadian. So are you concerned about a recession?
Well, I'm very concerned about a recession, but it's not the dental benefits that are going to cause it. Look, first of all, I think we really need to acknowledge that already working Canadians, people on fixed incomes are feeling a hit. You know, they're feeling it here in my part of the country. Things are getting harder and harder for Canadian families. And all the while, we are seeing record profits from the richest in this country. And we know that these profits and certainly the kind of greed that we're seeing driven by Canadian corporations and the richest among us is contributing to the inflationary crisis. And unfortunately, the Liberals are refusing to do anything about it. And they're also hiding behind the Bank of Canada and not taking the measures necessary to make sure that we don't head into the severe recession that some are predicting.
Ms. Kuzi, I was going to ask you, I mean, there's been a lot of attacks on the Bank of Canada by your party, but frankly, all central banks are raising rates right now. Is it fair to target just Canada's central bank at this point on the part of your party?
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to comment that it's very interesting for a member of the NDP to talk about the types of things that she did when she is part of the costly coalition that is costing Canadian taxpayers so much money. But if we look at other nations around the world, Michael, 51 other nations have provided tax relief. 2/3 of G7 and G20 nations have provided tax relief, and half of G7, G20 nations have provided tax relief, and 2/3 of OECD nations. So there's certainly a lot more that this government could do.
So it's tax relief or bust for the Conservatives, I guess.
Well, we certainly believe that we have made a commitment, our leader has made a commitment that for every dollar of new spending, we will create a dollar of savings. And we have committed to no new taxes under a Conservative government.
And sorry to interrupt, but the finance minister is saying that, according to the Toronto Star report, Christopher Freeland is telling ministers that if you're going to look for new programs, you've got to find budgetary cuts as well. That's not good enough?
Our leader was way ahead on this. He's been talking about inflation for 2 years.
He's not prime minister yet, though.
Not yet, but he will be.
But
and he came up with the pay-as-you-go model a long time ago.
Okay. Ms. Ashton, would you still support the Liberals if they pursue a policy of austerity? I mean, do you believe that the government should be spending more to make progress on pharmacare instead?
Well, first of all, austerity is not the answer. And frankly, we saw it under the Harper years. I mean, it's really concerning to hear from Conservatives who claim to talk about working class Canadians that failing to support them, through serious programs or structural changes is not the way to go. Canadians are hurting right now. They need support, whether it's in terms of dental care, housing, certainly cost of living. And I'm proud of the work that the NDP is doing to push on this front. But the reality is that we need to be going after the richest among us who are making record profits. We need to see, a way to get on the issue of those who are cheating on their taxes, those who are evading their taxes. We need to pursue a windfall tax, and we need to get serious on this front from the federal government. And I also want to say on the Bank of Canada, yes, we respect its independence, but let's also be clear, they are in charge of monetary policy. The Liberal government does set their mandate, and right now it is very problematic to see these interest rate hikes, and unacceptable that the Bank of Canada would be encouraging the employers in the business community to drive down wages. That is not the answer to avoiding a recession, and certainly we want to see support for working class Canadians right now.
Considering the deal that the NDP does have with the Liberals, why is there not more work being done by the NDP to force the Liberals' hand on this?
Well, I think we have been doing a lot of work, and certainly pursuing the issue around tax evasion, pushing back on the Liberals' inaction. We've seen some movement recently around, you were just showing grocery store images, pushing for an investigation into the gouging at our supermarkets. And we've been clear that whether it's the banking sector, the oil sector, the grocery sector, that these windfall profits are on the backs of workers, on the backs of Canadian families, and we need to see the rich pay their fair share, and we need to make sure that we are doing everything we can to support Canadians at this time and avoid a severe recession that is going to take our country further and further back.
Nikki Ashton from the NDP, Stephanie Kusi from the Conservatives, thank you both for joining us here today.